Another thing that's really important for maintaining proper hair growth, this anagen phase, is that you need sufficient iron. This is because iron and ferritin play a key role in these cell growth pathways that go from the stem cells to the stimulation of keratin within the hair itself. I don't have time to go into this pathway in a lot of detail, but you can have your blood levels of iron measured. This turns out to be pretty important because you don't just want to start popping iron supplements because too much iron can be toxic, too little means you're anemic. For women, the levels of iron that you want are somewhere between 25 and 100, and for men, somewhere between 30 and 150. Fortunately, the tests or the blood tests for iron are usually a very inexpensive add to your current blood panel. So if you're going in for a blood panel for LDL, HDL, typical things, or if you're doing the more elaborate hormone testing, which I do recommend people do if they can afford it or if their insurance covers it, do ask for an iron test as well. And if your iron is low, you may need to supplement your iron. If your iron is too high, that's not good either. But iron plays a key role in the anagen phase of hair growth. So you want to make sure you at least have sufficient iron. And if you don't, you want to make sure that you're getting it from nutrition and or supplementation. Now, the holy grail of all this hair stuff is in understanding that no one specific treatment is magic. And in fact, there are now a number of good meta-analyses comparing the various treatments we've talked about today alone or in combination. And we can summarize that pretty easily by saying that combination treatments that involve a mechanical stimulus and a chemical stimulus are always going to be better than either one alone. And within the mechanical category, the stimulus that seems to work best is microneedling. So the combination of microneedling and finasteride can lead to some pretty robust and impressive hair regrowth. So much so that people that were, I guess we'd only describe them as pretty bald or bald, can regrow significant amounts of hair. I've never seen examples of people who were completely bald, meaning lacking all scalp hair, to grow back a full head of hair. But the combination of microneedling and finasteride is probably the most effective way to go. And if you're going to do that, there's no reason why you couldn't also use ketoconazole shampoo, couldn't also use salt palmetto. There's no reason to think that these things collide with one another, although anytime you're inhibiting a DHT pathway, or whether or not you're increasing or decreasing any hormone pathway for that matter, you want to be careful about layering in too many different treatments because you don't want your DHT level to go too low. I mean, let's keep in mind that even if you take a very low dose of finasteride and reduce your DHT and don't have side effects, maybe just the mere addition of saw palmetto, which leads to a slight reduction in DHT, combined with some caffeine ointment, would be sufficient enough to start inducing some of the low DHT associated side effects. So you really have to see for you. And that's one of the major issues in this whole field of hair growth and regrowth, is that people are highly individual in their response and in their side effect profile to these various treatments. But there's an enormous range there, and unfortunately, there's no way to know a priori before doing these treatments what your response is going to be in terms of side effects. So you're simply going to have to explore, and I would hope that you would explore starting with minimal possible effective dosages, and to do that in coordination with a medical professional so you could really evaluate these things at the level of blood and cosmetic changes. And in fact, that's a pretty good motivator for thinking about the different treatments that we talked about today. Everything from mechanical treatments, as simple as massage, which we've all heard about, but for which there really aren't a lot of data for supporting hair growth, but certainly things like microneedling, which is a mechanical stimulus for which there are pretty good data that it can improve hair growth. Also things like saw palmetto, a weak DHT antagonist. Also things like ketoconazole shampoo, which again is a weak DHT antagonist and operates through some other pathways as well to stimulate hair growth. My suggestion is that anyone, young, old, male, female, who's thinking about embarking on various treatments for offsetting hair loss and stimulating hair growth, consider both mechanical approaches and the approaches that attack the chemical pathways that can stimulate hair growth and can inhibit the inhibitors of hair growth. In fact, that's the reason why we spend so much time on the biology of hair growth and what shuts down hair growth early on in today's episode, and then systematically went through each of the various treatments that relies on, and in some cases hinges entirely on, either a mechanical stimulus or a chemical stimulus in order to exert its effects. My goal today was not to overwhelm you with a ton of biology about hair, although we did cover a lot of biology of hair and stem cells and hair growth. My goal in describing all that was really for you to be able to hear about various treatments, whether or not it's lasers or PRP or finasteride, dutasteride, or whatever is coming next that we're sure to hear about soon online and from the medical community, and to be able to place those into bins related to their known or potential mechanisms, and then to be able to step back and evaluate which, if any, of those treatments might be right for you.